The first time I saw the sunrise over Red Rock Mesa, it burned like the memory of her face, Eliza's face, etched in every shadow of my mind. The wind carried the scent of sage and gunpowder, yet nothing could mask the bitterness that had settled deep in my chest. She had left me, for another man, and the desert, silent and relentless, seemed to mock me with every ripple of heat in the morning haze. Teyanita, son of the Apache plains, had known hardship before, thirst that seared my throat, hunger that gnawed at my stomach, but nothing had prepared me for this ache, this sudden emptiness where love had once thrived. Eliza had been my wife, my partner in the harshest of seasons, the only person who had ever seen past my scars, past the long black hair that hid 1,000 battles on my back. Now she was gone, and the echo of her laughter haunted the wind. I mounted my horse, a black stallion as wild as the mesas themselves, and rode through the jagged canyons, each hoofbeat pounding the rhythm of a heart betrayed. The town of Red Creek lay ahead, a cluster of wooden buildings, dust swirling in lazy eddies between the main street and the saloon doors. And I knew where I would find her, where the betrayal festered like an open wound, in the arms of a man who knew nothing of the battles I had fought, nothing of the nights I had spent watching over her as the desert howled. My hand brushed against the hilt of my knife, a relic of my father's tribe, carved with the faces of warriors long gone. It was not only my weapon, it was my history, my blood, my honor. And today, I feared, it might be the only thing standing between me and the rage that threatened to consume me. The wind whipped my cloak around me like a living shadow, carrying the smell of sagebrush and scorched earth, and I forced myself to breathe, to remember that I was more than the anger that boiled beneath my ribs. As I entered the town, the creak of wooden doors and the shuffle of boots against the dirt streets filled the air. A group of cowboys leaned lazily against the saloon, spitting into the dust, eyes following my approach with curiosity and something darker, anticipation. They did not know me, did not know what fire lay coiled beneath the calm in my dark eyes. And then I saw her, Eliza, her golden hair catching the morning light as she laughed, the sound cutting through me sharper than any blade. Beside her stood a man tall and broad, his hands resting possessively on her shoulders. His eyes held no fear, no respect, just the arrogance of someone who had stolen what I had cherished most. I felt my stomach twist, my chest tighten. The mesas I had ridden from seemed miles away now, insignificant compared to the storm rising inside me. Every instinct screamed anger, sorrow, vengeance, but above it all, a single thought burned: how had she come to this? How had the woman I loved drifted from my side like smoke into the desert wind? And then, in the silence between heartbeats, I made a vow. I would not falter. I would not break. Eliza had chosen another, but the Apache blood in my veins would not let me fade quietly into the dust. The stakes were clear. Confront the betrayal, reclaim my honor, or let the man she loved take more than she had already stolen. The sun climbed higher. The town awaited, and I stepped forward. The air in Red Creek was thick with dust and the low hum of anticipation, like the desert itself held its breath, waiting. My horse snorted beneath me, sensing the tension radiating off my body, and I tightened my grip on the reins. Eliza's laughter still echoed in my mind, sharp and unrelenting, cutting through every moment of silence. I could see the man now, broad-shouldered, standing too close, leaning like he owned the world, or at least the woman who had once been mine. I dismounted in front of the saloon, boots sinking slightly into the dry, cracked dirt, and forced myself to breathe slow and steady. Rage surged like wildfire through my veins, threatening to consume reason. But I could not let it. Not yet. Not here. Not now. I needed clarity, answers. Eliza, I called, my voice low but carrying, rough-like. the wind whipping across the mesa. Her laughter faltered, her head turning sharply. The smile she wore faltered into surprise, and then into something I could not yet name: guilt, maybe, or fear. The man by her side straightened, eyes narrowing at me, a sneer forming at the corner of his mouth. "You're far from your tribe, Tayanita," he said, voice deep and oily with mockery. "Come all the way here just to see her? Or are you looking for trouble?" I met his gaze evenly, feeling the pulse of my heartbeat in my ears, the weight of every battle I had fought, every hardship I had endured, coiling in my chest. "Came for her," I said simply, "and for truth. You know nothing of honor, nothing of what she has been to me." Eliza's hands went to her mouth, and I saw the flicker of indecision cross her face. "Tayanita, she began, but the words faltered under the weight of my stare. I saw her regret, sharp and raw, like a blade catching the morning light. "You left me," I said, my voice trembling, not with fear but with the ache of betrayal. "For him?" I nodded toward the man. The sneer on his face hardened, and he took a step forward, daring me to act. I remained still, letting my presence speak louder than words. Every muscle in my body tensed, a storm ready to break. The townsfolk gathered, whispers spreading like wildfire through the air, children peeking from behind barrels, cowboys resting hands on holsters, anticipating a fight. I felt the weight of eyes on me, the tension of a community watching. Waiting. Eliza stepped forward, her voice small but unwavering, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "I made a mistake, Tayanita. I thought I wanted more, and I was wrong. I left you, but I never stopped caring." The words pierced me, a mixture of warmth and pain that twisted my gut. My hands itched to reach for her, to pull her into my arms, but I held back, knowing that trust could not be rebuilt in a single breath. My eyes flicked to the man beside her, whose jaw tightened, fists clenching, ready to fight. "I'm not here for apologies," I said, voice steady now, cold like the shadows of the canyons. "I'm here to see if honor still matters to you, and to me." The wind picked up, tossing dust and stray pieces of straw into the air. I felt my heart hammering like the hooves of my horse earlier, my mind racing with all I had to lose. Every instinct in me screamed vengeance, yet another quieter voice whispered caution. "Remind yourself of your path, your tribe, your blood." Then, without warning, the man stepped toward me, fists raised, ready to test my mettle. I shifted my weight, muscles coiled like springs, and felt the calm before the storm. The desert, the town, Eliza's golden hair catching the sun, it all sharpened into focus. This was not merely about jealousy or betrayal. It was about respect, about truth, about the fire of the Apache blood that had been passed to me through generations of warriors. And I would prove, without a word, without hesitation, that neither deceit nor cowardice could break what I carried within. The first clash was inevitable. Dust rose around us as the fight ignited, a blur of movement and raw strength, the echo of our struggle bouncing off the wooden buildings. Every strike, every block, every calculated move told a story not just of anger, but of a life forged in the harshest deserts, tempered in loyalty, honor, and the unyielding heart of a warrior betrayed. And as I faced him, every fiber of my being focused on the truth. Eliza had left, but I would not let dishonor follow in her wake. The fight in the street had drawn a crowd, but I hardly noticed. My focus was on Eliza, her golden hair tangled by the wind, her face pale with worry. The man I had confronted staggered backward, nursing his pride more than his wounds, and I felt the fire of the Apache blood within me, steady and unyielding. Yet before I could demand more answers, a new sound pierced the dusty air, an eerie, sharp whistle carried by the wind from the cliffs above. The crowd froze. Horses shifted. Uneasily, I turned toward the jagged mesa that framed the town, and my heart clenched. Shadows moved along the rocks, figures mounted on horses, armed, their silhouettes like dark wraiths against the rising sun. Raiders. The town had been vulnerable. Too many buildings of dry wood, too many citizens unarmed. And suddenly I realized that my personal battle, my heartache over Eliza, paled against the danger descending upon us. My pulse quickened, muscles coiling for action. There was no time to linger on betrayal, not when lives hung in the balance. "Eliza," I called, voice cutting through the tension. "Get inside. Tell everyone to find cover." Her eyes widened, fear and uncertainty swirling together, but she nodded, darting toward the general store where townsfolk were gathering behind crates. I turned to face the mounted attackers, gripping the leather straps of my coat, my bare chest. Gleaming in the morning sun, the raiders came fast, a stampede of horses and fury, dust trailing behind like smoke from the desert floor. My mind raced, weighing strategy against instinct. I could not simply fight blindly. Too many innocents would be caught in the crossfire. I scanned the street, noting every alley, every barrel, every narrow passage I could use to my advantage. As they drew closer, I let my body move with the precision of countless battles past. I sidestepped a charging rider, sliding low behind a wagon, then launched myself forward, striking with the butt of my rifle against a horse's flank. The animal reared, throwing its rider into the dust. Another rider fell to the ground as I swung a chain knife, the blade glinting with morning light. Eliza's voice rose above the chaos, screaming instructions to the townsfolk, and for a moment I saw the woman I had loved, the courage beneath her fear. It stung to think of what she had done to me, but now she fought beside me, even unknowingly, trying to keep others safe. The raiders pressed on, relentless, and I realized I could not hold them all alone. I leaped onto the porch of the saloon, rifle in hand, and fired carefully, taking down a horse and rider with a single, precise shot. The others hesitated, surprised by my speed and ferocity. I felt every muscle in my body burn, the sting of sweat and dust coating my skin. But I did not falter. Then came the leader, tall, masked, and armed with a pistol. He spurred his horse forward, forcing me into the open. Time slowed, every heartbeat ringing in my ears. I met his gaze, unflinching, feeling the legacy of my ancestors in my stance, the weight of my honor pressing on my shoulders. In a blur of motion, we collided, man and warrior, horse and sand kicking up around us. I felt the raw clash of strength and will, and for a fleeting moment, everything else, the betrayal, the heartache, faded. There was only survival, only the fight to protect those who could not defend themselves. When the dust settled, 2 raiders lay unconscious, and the rest scattered back toward the mesa, unwilling to challenge the storm that was an Apache warrior defending a town. I sank to one knee, chest heaving, feeling the ache of exertion mixed with something sharper relief. Eliza ran to me, brushing dust from my shoulders, her touch hesitant but caring. "You saved us. You saved everyone," she whispered, eyes wide. I never realized. I stared at her, jaw tight, remembering the betrayal that had led me here. I could feel the pull of anger, yes, but also something else, something unspoken, a bond reforged in the crucible of battle. The desert wind whispered through the town, carrying with it the scent of sage, sweat, and blood. And I knew, as the sun climbed higher, that this fight had changed everything, not only for the town, but for me. Betrayal had driven me here, but honor and courage had shown me a new path. And tomorrow I would confront the man she had chosen. But today, survival and duty demanded all of my strength. The dust still hung heavy in the street, settling slowly over broken barrels, scattered straw, and the faint scent of blood. My chest heaved, every muscle trembling from exertion, yet the adrenaline pulsed through me, sharp and relentless. The raiders had fled, but the danger was far from gone. I glanced at Eliza, her face pale but resolute, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and something softer, perhaps relief, or gratitude, or both. "You saved them," she whispered again, voice trembling. "You saved everyone. And I never realized how strong you are." I let her words wash over me, though I could feel the old ache of betrayal still lingering beneath the surface. Strength alone did not erase the sting of being left behind. But survival had a way of clarifying priorities, of stripping life down to its barest essence: honor, courage, and duty. The townsfolk began to emerge from hiding, cautious at first, then with growing confidence. A few approached me, hands extended. In thanks, but I merely nodded. The danger had passed for now, but the desert always held more than it revealed. And I knew my personal battle had only begun. A sudden commotion at the edge of town drew my attention. A young boy, no older than 10, ran toward me, clutching a satchel of supplies and breathless with fear. Mister, he called. "The creek. It's rising. People are trapped. They need help." My jaw tightened. Nature, it seemed, would not allow me a moment's peace. I dropped to my horse, gripping the reins tightly, muscles coiled and ready. "Stay here," I instructed. The boy, though his wide eyes made it clear he would follow anyway. He nodded, trust shining through his fear, and I spurred the stallion forward toward the creek outside town. The scene that met me was chaos incarnate. The recent rains had swelled the creek beyond its banks, water rushing over the stones with a roar that echoed through the canyon. Several settlers were trapped on the far side, clinging to rocks or each other, desperate and terrified. I dismounted, feeling the icy spray hit my bare chest, hair plastered against my shoulders. My muscles tensed, every sense alert. One by one, I waded into the torrent, the water battering against me, teeth chattering cold but my resolve unbroken. I reached the first of the trapped settlers, a young mother clutching her infant. She shrieked in relief as I scooped the child from her arms and handed it to a boy who had managed to cross safely. Then I guided her back to shore, muscles burning, lungs straining against the wind and water. Eliza's voice called across the creek, shouting directions and encouragement. I turned to see her aiding others, her hand steady despite the fear. In her eyes, the woman I had loved and still loved was proving herself in ways I hadn't anticipated. It stung, and yet it reminded me that betrayal and courage could coexist, that humans were never one-dimensional. Hours passed, each moment stretching like the desert sun, until finally the last of the settlers was safe. I collapsed onto the bank, chest heaving, drenched in sweat and river water, mud streaked across my skin. Eliza knelt beside me, her hands brushing the dirt from my arms. You saved them all," she said softly. I looked into her eyes, feeling a mixture of pride and sorrow. "I did what had to be done," I replied, voice hoarse. "But honor is never free. It comes with a price. And sometimes the price is more than you can bear alone." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she watched me, eyes glistening with emotion. I could see her regret, her gratitude, and the faint spark of something more, perhaps the beginning of trust, perhaps hope. But for now, it was enough that she was alive, that the town survived, and that my path, though painful, remained true. To the blood running through my veins, the sun dipped lower, painting the canyon walls in shades of red and gold. I felt the weight of exhaustion, but also the certainty that the coming days would demand more than courage, they would demand choices. and my heart, still raw from betrayal, would be tested again. The town of Red Creek was quieter now. The chaos of the morning faded into the soft hum of recovery. Settlers repaired broken fences, tended to minor injuries, and whispered in awe about the warrior who had saved them all. I stood apart, leaning against my black stallion, chest heaving, water dripping from my hair and skin still caked with mud. My hands flexed, muscles twitching with the adrenaline that refused to leave my veins. And yet, as my eyes found her, Eliza, something unexpected stirred inside me. The first faint trace of forgiveness. She approached slowly, shoulders hunched, eyes cast downward, as though she carried the weight of her decisions on her own. The golden strands of hair that had once tormented me now seemed softer in the afternoon light, catching the sun like fire in a gentle breeze. "Tayanita," she began, her voice trembling, unsure. I can't undo what I did, but I raised a hand, stopping her. Words would not mend what had been broken. Trust could not be sewn back together with apologies alone. "Eliza," I said, voice steady, gravelly from dust and exertion, "you left. You made your choice. I will not pretend the pain does not exist. But your actions today, helping, risking yourself for others, they show a strength I cannot ignore." Her eyes lifted to mine, a flicker of hope shining through the storm of guilt. She stepped closer, hesitant, yet unafraid. "I never wanted to hurt you," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "I was lost. I thought I needed something I didn't understand. But seeing you today, seeing you save them, save all of us, I remembered why I loved you." The words hit me like a striking wind across the mesa. Anger, betrayal, love, and admiration collided in my chest, a tumultuous storm that threatened to tear me in two. I wanted to step forward, to pull her into my arms, but restraint held me back. Forgiveness was not given lightly. It was earned, and the path toward it would be long and fraught. "You put yourself at risk for strangers," I said, jaw tight, eyes narrowing. "Yet you left me when I needed you most. Can honor be divided so easily?" Her gaze wavered, glimmering with tears she refused to shed. "No," she said softly, "it cannot, and I see now. I see what I've lost. I want to make it right, if you will let me." Before I could answer, a commotion from the outskirts of town drew our attention. A rider approached, galloping furiously, dust trailing behind him like smoke. He came to a sudden halt, leaning down to deliver his urgent message. "The bandits from the mesa? They're regrouping. They'll strike again at sunset." The threat was immediate, undeniable. My muscles tensed, instincts honed from years of survival flaring. My focus sharpened. Eliza stepped back, fear and concern etched on her face. I saw the woman who had left me, yes, but I also saw the courage she had shown that morning. She had the strength to face danger, and perhaps, if she chose wisely, the wisdom to stand beside me. I mounted my horse, feeling the familiar rhythm beneath me, and glanced at her. "Stay close," I instructed, voice firm. "If they come, you must not be in the open. Trust me, I will not let anything happen to you." Her lips parted, but she said nothing, nodding instead. The sun cast long shadows over the desert street, painting the town in gold and red, and I felt the weight of everything pressing down. Betrayal, forgiveness, honor, and love yet unspoken dot as I spurred my horse toward the mesa's edge, preparing. For the inevitable clash, I realized something profound. The past could not be erased, nor could the pain forgotten. But courage, loyalty, and the unyielding spirit of the Apache blood running through me could create a future, forged in the fires of trial and tempered by the heart. And in that moment, I understood. The battle for the town, and perhaps for Eliza's trust, had only just begun. The mesa's shadow stretched long over the town as the sun began its descent, painting Red Creek in gold and crimson. My hands gripped the reins, knuckles white, heart pounding beneath the rhythm of my chest. The rider's warning had been clear. The bandits were regrouping, and their anger would be sharper, more ruthless. Every instinct I had learned on the plains screamed at me, prepare. Strike, survive. Eliza stayed close, her presence a mixture of comfort and torment. She had chosen to stand near me now, though fear lingered in her eyes. I could feel it, and it stirred something deep in my chest, a reminder that trust, once broken, must be earned again. But today there was no time for hesitation. From the ridge, I saw them. The bandits, mounted, glinting weapons catching the last rays of sun. Their eyes were hungry with vengeance, and their horses pawed the earth impatiently. I breathed in the Jizin, sharp desert air, feeling it fill my lungs, steadying myself for what was to come. Eliza, behind me, I instructed, voice low but firm. Stay close and do not make a sound. She nodded, gripping the reins of a spare horse one of the townsfolk had offered her. Her golden hair shone like fire in the fading light, but her hands were steady, a testament to the courage she had displayed in the creek that morning. I turned my gaze forward, scanning the enemy. There were more than I had expected, but that did not deter me. Every warrior knows the power of strategy, of timing, of exploiting fear. And today I would use all of it. I spurred my horse forward, a shadow of black moving across the desert floor. Dust trailed behind me like smoke as I closed the distance, every muscle taut and ready. The bandits saw me and sneered, underestimating the fury and skill of a warrior who had been forged in hardship and betrayal. The first clash was sudden steel against steel, hooves kicking up clouds of dirt and grit. I struck with precision, each motion calculated, each strike a testament to years of training and survival. A bandit fell to the ground, another's horse reared, and a third tried to flank me, only to meet my knife, glinting under the dying sun. Eliza watched from a safe distance, fear and admiration mingling in her eyes. I caught a glimpse of her expression and felt a pang regret, perhaps for the time we had lost, but also hope for what could be. My focus sharpened. There was no room for doubt. The leader emerged then, the man who had orchestrated the raid, towering and cruel, his pistol drawn. He met my gaze, and for a brief instant, time seemed to slow. I felt the weight of every battle, every betrayal, every ounce of Apache blood running through me. Honor demanded that I face him not just for the town, but for the past I could not forget, and the future I hoped to claim. We collided with force, the clash ringing out across the mesa. My muscles burned, sweat and dust coating my skin, but my resolve did not waver. He was strong, yes, but I was faster, fiercer, and driven by something deeper than survival, by loyalty, by honor, and by the lingering love I could not yet release. Minutes passed like hours, each strike a story of pain, strength, and determination. Finally, with a swift maneuver, I disarmed him, sending his weapon skittering across the rocks. He fell to his knees, breathing hard, eyes wide with disbelief. The remaining bandits, seeing their leader defeated, fled into the desert, leaving the town and us intact. I exhaled slowly, chest heaving, muscles trembling. Eliza rode toward me, her eyes glistening with unspoken emotion. You did it," she whispered. "You saved everyone. Again." I looked at her, feeling the pull of anger, forgiveness, and something more, something I had not dared to name. "I did what was right," I said, voice low. "Honor is not given lightly, Eliza, and neither is trust." The sun dipped below, the horizon casting Red Creek in a wash of purples and golds. I knew the battle for the town was over, but the battle for hearts mine and hers was only beginning. And for the first time since her betrayal, I allowed myself a cautious hope that the future might still be ours to claim. The desert wind carried the scent of sage and scorched earth as I stood at the edge of Red Creek, surveying the aftermath of the battle. The bandits had fled, leaving the town battered but standing. My black stallion pawed at the ground beneath me, muscles coiled, mirroring the tension still thrumming in my chest. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the town in deep amber and shadow, and I finally allowed myself a moment to breathe. Eliza approached slowly, her steps cautious, the weight of what she had done and what she now faced written across her face. Golden strands of hair caught the dying light as she stopped before me. "Tayanita," she said softly, voice quivering. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Not yet. But I want to stay. To help. Too." I held up a hand, stopping. Her words. My chest still ached from the duel, from the fear of losing the town and everything I had fought to protect. Yet beneath that ache was something I had not felt for a long time, the stirring of hope. "Eliza," I said, voice low and steady. "Actions speak louder than words. You've seen the consequences of cowardice, betrayal, and fear. Today you made a choice to stand and act. That counts for something. That is the first step." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. She stepped closer, hands trembling as they reached for mine. I looked down at her, seeing not only the woman who had left me, but the courage that had emerged in her absence, the strength that had returned. "I will not betray you again," she whispered. I allowed myself a faint nod. It was not full forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning, a promise of possibility. The Apache blood that ran through me demanded honor, loyalty, and action. It did not demand immediate absolution. Yet I could feel the pull of something older, deeper, tied to the wind and the desert, to the mesas and the sun-scorched earth. Behind us, the townsfolk began to emerge from the shadows of the wooden buildings. Children laughed cautiously, cowboys nodded with grudging respect, and women whispered their gratitude. The danger had passed, and the town's heart, fragile but resilient, beat on. And somewhere amid that resilience, I could sense the possibility of healing, not just for the town, but for us. The evening sky burned deep crimson and violet, clouds tinged with the last embers of daylight. I mounted my stallion, feeling the familiar strength of my horse beneath me, and glanced down at Eliza. "We ride together tomorrow," I said quietly. "If you can trust me. If you can prove your strength again when it matters." She nodded, without hesitation, mounting a spare horse beside mine. The desert stretched endlessly before us, a place of harsh truths and unforgiving beauty, but also a place where paths could be reshaped by courage and choice. I could feel the pulse of the land, the rhythm of survival, and the quiet whisper of the wind, as though it carried the approval of ancestors long gone. As we rode side by side, the town fading behind us, I allowed myself to feel something I had thought lost forever. The possibility of connection, of love rekindled, forged anew in the fires of trial and honor. The desert did not forgive easily, nor did the heart, but it rewarded those who were willing to stand, to fight, and to protect what mattered most. Eliza glanced at me, eyes searching, and I met her gaze. In that instant, the bitterness of betrayal softened, replaced by a cautious hope. We had been tested by fire, by water, by steel, and by choices that could have destroyed us. Yet here we were survivors, warriors, bound by blood, courage, and the faint, fragile promise of love reborn. The night swallowed the desert around us, stars pricking the dark sky like scattered embers. And I, Tayanita, Apache warrior, felt the weight of the past lift just enough to allow the future to unfold. We rode on together through the dust and the twilight, hearts still guarded, yet alive with possibility. knowing that the trials of the desert and the heart had shaped us into something stronger, something unbreakable. And in the quiet, beneath the endless sky, I allowed myself one thought, steady and sure. Betrayal had been endured, honor had been defended, and love scarred but unbroken might yet survive.